There's one big question taking over Ravens' flock right now. How much is it going to cost to keep Lamar Jackson as the face of this franchise for the next several years? Now, a new piece of information is putting even more pressure on Baltimore because an NFL insider revealed a possible contract extension value that could completely change the quarterback market. And the number is so massive that it could put Lamar in a group that only a few players in NFL history have ever reached. But before we only look at the money, there's another part of this negotiation that could change everything for the Ravens. Lamar has a level of power that very few players in the league have, and the decision Baltimore makes could shape the future of this team for years to come. So the biggest question is this: will Baltimore make the biggest investment in franchise history to keep their quarterback, or could this negotiation create an unexpected problem for the Ravens? The biggest question inside Baltimore right now is pretty simple. How much will the Ravens have to pay to make sure Lamar Jackson remains the leader of this franchise for years to come? That answer is becoming more and more shocking because some people around the NFL believe Lamar could be looking for a contract at a level we have never seen before. According to Jason La Canfora, Lamar could be looking for a deal worth around $275 million fully guaranteed. To put that number into perspective, this type of contract would surpass some of the biggest deals in league history and place Lamar in a completely different category among the highest-paid quarterbacks in football. But the biggest point here is not only the money. A contract like this represents the recognition Lamar believes he deserves after everything he has built in Baltimore. He arrived in 2018, won 2 regular season MVP awards, and became the player who defines the identity of the Ravens on the field. Lamar is not just another quarterback on the roster. He is the player the entire franchise has been built around. And this is where the biggest challenge begins for the Ravens front office. Eric DeCosta and Steve Bisciotti have to decide how far they are willing to go to keep their biggest star in Baltimore. Because if Lamar truly wants a contract at this level, this is no longer just about extending a player's deal. This becomes a decision that could completely change the future direction of the franchise. But there's another important part of this negotiation that gives Lamar even more leverage: the control he has over his own future. One of the biggest parts of this negotiation is not only about the value of the contract. It is about the amount of power Lamar Jackson has created for himself through his current deal. The Ravens quarterback is in a situation that very few NFL players ever reach because his future depends much more on his own decision than on what the franchise wants to do. Lamar's current contract includes 2 massive protections. Baltimore cannot use the franchise tag to keep him after the 2027 season, and the team also cannot trade him to another organization without his approval. In simple terms, the Ravens do not have all of the traditional tools teams usually use to control a player's future. They cannot force him to stay through the franchise tag, and they cannot simply decide to send him somewhere else if negotiations break down. That changes the entire dynamic of the situation. Normally, a team can create pressure by holding a player's rights for another season or having the ability to negotiate a trade. With Lamar, that pressure almost disappears. He knows he has options, and he knows there will be plenty of teams interested in adding a quarterback with his talent and accomplishments. And that is exactly why Baltimore finds itself in such a difficult position. The front office needs to find an agreement that makes Lamar want to stay before he gains even more freedom to choose his next move. But beyond the control Lamar has in this negotiation, there's another major problem waiting for the Ravens: the massive financial impact his current contract could create on the salary cap. The biggest challenge for Baltimore is not only convincing Lamar Jackson to stay. The franchise also has to solve a financial problem that could become enormous in the future. Lamar's current contract is expected to create an impact of around $85 million on the salary cap in 2027, a number that immediately stands out across the NFL. To understand why this matters, think of the salary cap as the amount of money every team has available to build its roster. If one player takes up a huge portion of that space, it becomes much harder to keep other important pieces around him. For the Ravens, that could mean difficult decisions involving new signings, contract extensions, and the overall construction of the roster. A contract extension could be the solution to reduce that pressure. By creating a new deal, Baltimore could spread out the financial impact over multiple seasons and gain more flexibility with the salary cap. But there is a complicated part of that plan. To get that financial relief, the Ravens would have to give Lamar a contract that matches his expectations. And that is where the real battle is happening behind the scenes. Baltimore has to balance two massive priorities at the same time: keeping one of the best quarterbacks in football while also protecting the future of the entire roster. The pressure becomes even bigger because Lamar is not entering this negotiation from a normal position. He has control, and he understands something very important. Baltimore needs him just as much as he needs the Ravens. But beyond the money and contract structure, there is another question that could define this entire situation. Does Lamar still want to be the face of the Ravens, or does he believe he deserves to be recognized as the best of the best? Despite all the tension surrounding the money and contract negotiations, there is one important thing to remember. Lamar Jackson has made it clear that he loves Baltimore and wants to remain with the franchise that believed in him back in 2018. The quarterback has built a strong connection with the city and has become the biggest symbol of the Ravens over the last several years. He is not only the leader of the offense, but also the player most fans associate with the future of this team. At the same time, Lamar understands the value he brings to the organization. Since entering the NFL, he has changed the way many teams look at the quarterback position. His unique style of play, his ability to take over games, and his 2 MVP awards have placed him among the most talented players in the league. That is why this negotiation is about much more than simply staying in Baltimore. It is also about receiving a contract that reflects where Lamar believes he belongs among the NFL's elite quarterbacks. After watching other quarterbacks receive massive deals, there is an expectation that Lamar wants to be financially recognized as one of the most important players at his position. For the Ravens, this is the most important part of the entire conversation. They need to show Lamar that he is the center of the franchise's plans and that they are committed to building the future around him. But there is one question becoming harder to ignore. What happens if Baltimore's offer is not enough to convince their star quarterback?
If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow.
The situation happening right now feels similar to what took place before Lamar Jackson signed his previous major contract with Baltimore. After the 2022 season, Lamar requested a trade from the Ravens before eventually reaching a new agreement with the team. That moment showed something important. Lamar is not afraid to make difficult decisions when it comes to protecting his own future. Now, some people around the league believe a similar situation could happen again if Baltimore does not present a contract offer that satisfies the quarterback. As time goes on, Lamar will have even more leverage in these negotiations and the ability to consider different paths for the next chapter of his career. The problem for the Ravens is that losing Lamar would mean much more than losing a great player. It would mean losing the face of the franchise, the quarterback who changed the identity of the offense and brought a new level of excitement to Baltimore since arriving in 2018. Finding a replacement for a quarterback of this level is one of the hardest challenges any NFL team can face. That is why the next decisions from Eric DeCosta and Steve Bisciotti will carry enormous weight. They need to find the right balance between the financial value of the contract and the importance of keeping Lamar leading this team. Because this negotiation could determine whether the Ravens continue building their next era around Lamar Jackson, or whether they are forced to face one of the biggest changes in franchise history. Lamar Jackson remains the most important player in this franchise, and everything points to the future of the Ravens being directly connected to how they handle his next contract. The potential value of this extension, the control Lamar has over his own future, and the impact on the salary cap show that this could become one of the most important negotiations Baltimore has faced in recent years. The front office will need to find the perfect balance between recognizing everything Lamar represents and keeping the ability to build a competitive roster around him. A contract of this size is not only about paying one player, it is about deciding the direction this franchise will take over the next several seasons. Every decision made now could impact the success of the Ravens for years to come. And now I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Ravens should do whatever it takes financially to keep Lamar Jackson as the face of this franchise, or is there a limit Baltimore should not cross? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because I want to know how Ravens flock feels about a decision that could change the future of this team.
And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out, and I'll see you in the next video.